Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering how to write a true story about your life. It can be so empowering to share your message with the world, but it can be scary too. Let's make this process a little bit easier. By the end of this video, you will learn how to tap into your deeper message, uncover the reader's benefit, and get the words onto the page. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. It's interesting looking at the topic of this video, how to write a true story about your life, as opposed to a not true story, a fictionalized story. I think it can be scary to be open and honest with ourselves. It's too easy sometimes to think about entering fictionalized topics or characters into a story because the facts are too disappointing or frustrating or challenging. Being true and being honest and being unflinchingly real is going to help people so much more than sugarcoating the things that don't feel great about ourselves and our journey and our lives. Lean into those things. Lean into the vulnerabilities. Lean into the truths. Because the reality is, the truths that you're facing, the things that bother you, the things that keep you up at night, the things that you don't really like about yourself, those are things that other people feel too. You know, I think back to one person in particular I've been working with on their book, and they have this very disappointing topic within their story that every time we talk about it makes them really want to cry, like it's a very emotional thing, and they blame themselves for it. And me working with them hasn't changed that. They're always going to feel that way, you know, but I think it's been meaningful to talk through it and be real about it, be honest about it. You know, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and we need to learn from them and reckon with them. And, you know, I think being open about our mistakes and recognizing where we let ourselves down, it leads to healing and growth. So sidestepping some of the things that might not feel great about ourselves within your story, again, it's going to leave you short and it's going to leave the reader short, because the reader's going to read this and they're not going to know the full scope. I'm not saying that you want to necessarily put like all your personal details into book form. There's some things you might want to retain for yourself, you know, but be real about it, be open about it, be vulnerable about it. Within that focus, it's important too to balance the fact that other people might not love what you're writing. Other people might not feel great about the story that you're writing. As long as you're being honest and as long as you're being as respectful as possible, it is what it is. Like, not everybody's going to love what you're writing, and you just kind of have to roll with it. For me, it's a matter of being purposeful with the stories you tell. Not just putting like tragedy after tragedy in your story or like naming and shaming people, but making the stories count. Why does this story matter? Why is this story in there? If you can justify it and explain why it matters to yourself, you know, and explain that to the reader, it's going to make it more impactful other than just putting a story in to burn somebody. What are the bigger picture messages that you're trying to share? What is the message that you want to say? What is your message distilled to a sentence or two? You really need to be able to tap into that and understand that, because otherwise this could be unwieldy. This could really drift in a lot of different directions. You want this story to be focused and narrow and direct. You don't want it to just be every single thing that happened to you. You want it to be why this matters in this little bow, you know, tied up in this little bow. And doing so is going to make it more impactful, because then you can really figure out, who is this book for? You know, what is their takeaway? What are they going to learn from this? From that, you can really figure out like, oh, does this story need to be in there or not? I remember one of my clients, we worked on a book together, and they had all of these childhood stories in the book. And I kept asking him, like, what about this? What about this? Why does this need to be in here? And eventually we removed them. It's a couple of these stories. And the book was so much stronger, because otherwise the stories didn't have any connection to anything. They were just stories that were interesting that happened to him and people close to him. But at the same time, if they didn't connect to the deeper themes of the book, why are they there? I am a huge fan of outlining. I outline every single book I work on. I highly recommend that you outline your book too, because otherwise it could drift all over the place. If you think about just writing a book about your life, it could take forever. It could scope could just creep and creep and grow and grow. You know, if you outline your book and figure out what you want to say, you can be more direct with the things that you write and the stories that you tell. And it's so compelling to be able to stay focused on those very specific stories. It's going to make them that much stronger. And it's also going to help you understand where you should spend your energy in writing. If you don't outline and you just write, you're liable to write things that are not even close to being considered for the book, that don't make any sense to be included, that are going to get cut anyway. Making the most of your time is a really big part of the writing process because we're busy. We don't have a ton of time sometimes to devote to writing. So you want to make the time that you do have to be purposeful. So outline. Outline could be index cards. Outlining could be, just scribbles on a piece of paper. It could be a mind map. Whatever it is, outline the book and make it make sense for you because it's going to make the writing process that much easier. The next step is writing, getting the words out, getting the words onto the page. There's so many different ways that you can go about writing your book. Some of the most profound and impactful that I use are pen and paper. I will literally go to a coffee shop with a pen and paper or a notepad and start writing. I will type on my keyboard. And the third option is voice-to-text transcription. I will record myself talking through different topics. I will upload the audio into a service like Adhere or Rev that automatically transcribes the text, and then I will take the words that come out of that and turn it into chapters. And it's awesome to be able to, just in a couple minutes, to get words down onto the page, even if they're not great words. You can build on them. You can grow with them. You can turn them into something. And I use all three of those things interchangeably. At any given time, in any given day, I could be doing any one of those things. And it's great to be able to see the words come out in any format that you choose. So whatever works best for you, you do that. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Just a matter of making the most of your effort and energy and allowing you to bring this story forward. If you want to learn more about how to write a true story about your life, I'd love to share some more insights. There's so many things that I'd love to share with you that I just have gathered from my years as a book ghostwriter. So if you want to learn more, head to my website, goodghostwriter.com, and there you can actually schedule a one-on-one strategy call with me. I'd love to meet with you to hear about your story, to hear about your goals, some of your pain points and struggles. Maybe I can help you on your way or point you in the right direction. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.